Hey everybody out there in the land of YouTube, this is Annette Dion. I'm the host and founder of the Psychic News Network. Thank you for joining me this evening. It's Monday, or whenever you're watching. It's April 11th, 2022, and today the moon is in Leo, and as it was yesterday also, so I hope you had a nice, fiery, expressive day. As I mentioned on Friday, it was going to be a fiery and expressive Sunday. And there's a ton of stuff in the news, and I usually check it before I come on just to get the headlines, and I couldn't write down any more headlines. There was so much there. We're gonna look at Kushner, the Saudi prince, and the deals. Didn't I just say the other day that Jared Kushner was cooperative with the January 6th committee, partially because he wanted to make it look like he is a cooperative guy, that he's a good guy, that if they need him to cooperate, he was, I just get this feeling of him wanting to put on the persona of I'm not a criminal because I'm cooperating. There was more to it than what happened on January 6th, because as we know, he wasn't even in the country on January 6th, because he was suspiciously somewhere in the Middle East. I had said before that I saw huge crimes, huge international crimes that he's committed, and I have said in the past, and we'll look at it again, that I see Jared Kushner behind bars, because the crimes that he's committed, the international crimes that he's committed, are pretty damn huge. A while back, I also said we're going to find out so much about this criminal administration that was in the White House for 4 years that it was going to make our hair curl. The other thing that's making our hair curl, or our hair turn straight if our hair is curly, is, what we're finding out about January 6th. And how many people were in on it, and how many crimes were committed, how close we came to losing our democracy, and with what's going on with Putin's war, which is what I call it now, Putin's war, we are seeing such parallels. Just going back to the Middle East and Kushner, I really felt like I knew all along that he knew, when the whole Khashoggi thing happened, and I can't even, that's too much. I mean, I know that there's a person that made some kind of a documentary about Khashoggi, and he actually knew him. I don't know if that ever came out, but that's something I would never be able to watch. But anyway, Jared was shameless in terms of, or fearless in terms of, it didn't matter how big the crime was. And I haven't watched the whole story in the news in terms of how the deals went and how many billions crossed hands, but I just knew that he knew what was going to happen to Khashoggi. I felt that all along. This channel's for entertainment purposes only, based on my psychic fact impressions, and that's such a dark topic, the Khashoggi murder, that it made it so unbelievable to me that I was just tuning in, really, very psychically tuning in. Jared, entertainment purposes only, Jared was part of that. The guides are showing me he gave the nod. Anyway, this is what we're dealing with. And Putin's war is showing us the extent of the evil and the darkness that can happen, that is happening, and that can head into this direction of the West and America. And it already kind of has in a way, but I'm not saying this to scare you, because it's what we already know. So there's just, like I said, there's just so much to unpack, but we're just going to start with the Jared thing. We're going to get into the Roe versus Wade. We're going to get into what's happening with Ron DeSantis. We're going to get into, and please pardon me in advance if I promise something and then, but when I watch my video afterwards, I'll see if I promised something and then didn't follow through. And feel free to point it out. It's a lot to keep track of. Governor Abbott is going full on, full force, full steam ahead with his anti-trans bill. As far as all this about you can't be this and you can't be that, there are huge numbers of the population, of the generation that's coming of age, that we need to back them. We need to stand up tall for them. Those that are just coming into their voting years, age years, 18 and up. We have to pave the way for them because this is going to be their world. And they, for the most part, just generalizing, they don't see difference in color. They don't see difference in, you know, like people's rights, whether they're trans or bi or gay or, you know, lesbian, or this generation coming up, they're like little children in the sense that they don't naturally feel that way. They don't naturally feel like that people should be treated differently. And they were a huge part of the Black Lives Matter movement. They were maybe the majority. So when I look at all the darkness that's rising up to be seen on full display in full grotesque living color, I also know that this is not sustainable. What Abbott's doing, what DeSantis is doing, what Trump is doing and has done, what the Republicans are doing, what Putin is doing, what they're doing, what the Middle East is doing. It's not. I'm not saying it's going to all go away. I'm just saying it's not sustainable. We don't know how long it's going to last, but it definitely is not. At some point, it's going to crumble and fall to the ground. So let's look at Kushner. I'm just going to look at what Jared Kushner is up against in terms of him being... I told you about when Autumn on Black and Orange referred to him as the evil mannequin, and I thought that was... I need to tip the girl. I need to tip that tarot reader. I'm going to get in touch with her one of these days. The evil mannequin. It's just... Kushner, what's going to happen with Jared Kushner? Oh my goodness, this is, well, interestingly enough, it's very much what I said. Kushner really counted, this is what the guides are giving me. Kushner counted on January 6th to be his cover. Oh my God, this is amazing. And we really did have huge angels that protected us from what was supposed to transpire on January 6th. The one thing that gives me great faith is that we made it through that. Not unscathed, we're still scathed, but we didn't lose our government. This is Jared Kushner. He knows what he did. And believe it or not, I know it's hard to believe because he is a sociopath criminal mind according to my psychic vibe. But he's been carrying some guilt about what happened to Khashoggi, even though it might not be the kind that keeps him up at night. He knew it was wrong. And the guides are saying he was complicit. Entertainment purposes only. It's my psychic impression. Jared Kushner is really trapped right now. Jared Kushner cannot get out of the consequences of the international crimes, big, huge, ginormous crimes that he committed. And this is a card of the nefarious intent. Look at that guy. I love these cards. They're so expressive. The Prince of Cups. The Prince of Cups doesn't look quite as nefarious in the other decks, but this is really, when this card comes up in this deck, it's like, whoa, somebody was up to really no good at all. And the guys are saying it's almost like he couldn't stop. I mean, these people, some of them are addicted to committing crimes. And it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like the slot machine sort of, just in terms of the way the brain kind of like, maybe I can get a little more, maybe I can get a little more, a little more, a little more. And it's all about the greed, and it's all about not knowing when to stop. And he didn't know when to stop because he got in this like whirlwind of criminal stuff where he just kept doing deals and doing deals and doing deals, and it resulted in Khashoggi's murder. And it's so, there's so many different crimes going on within that situation, and I should probably shut up about it right now because who the hell knows is listening to the videos. Oh my goodness. We're good. It's all good. Okay, that's all about Kushner and Ivanka. I feel like Ivanka and Kushner spoke up. This is, you know, as far as the January 6th committee and them going and just freely sharing whatever they shared. And I think that it was just the bare minimum was my impression. I really think the ulterior motive there was for Jared and Ivanka to put on an appearance like, see, we're not criminals, because if we were criminals, why would we show up when the January 6th committee wanted us to speak? That's what was behind that. Don't think for a second that they were like, oh, we better do the right thing. God, no. Yeah, I got some oceanfront property in Arizona, if you believe that they did it out of their patriotism and doing the right thing. On that note, do you remember when taking an oath meant something? We're going to get something optimistic going tonight. Let's see what it can be. Well, Cheney and the January 6th committee are talking about whether to call in the orange Cheeto for questioning. I have a couple things couple perspectives on that. It might not be the best thing to bring Trump in for questioning at the current time. So as much as we're like, how many times, if you ever watch Glenn Kushner, you just think he's gonna have, you know, you just think he's gonna blow a fuse at how angry he gets that justice has not been served. I do understand how volatile the situation is, and I do understand what, I mean, look, there were those Secret Service guys, those agents that like totally posed as security dudes, and I didn't read the whole entire story, but anyway, you don't know who's around who's going to be whispering such and such and so-and-so's ear about, you know, taking somebody down or taking the country down, you know, or attempting to again. So I'm just saying that I understand why the January 6th committee would be hesitant to call Trump in at the present time for questioning. And it's multi-layered, and it's, I just see why they're weighing it out. And I'll check and see what Glenn Kushner said on his YouTube channel tonight and get back to you on that. But let's just take a look at whether they're actually going to opt for taking Trump and calling him in for questioning. It's hard to keep up, you know? It is hard to keep up. Oh, wow, interesting. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, they're not going to. They're not calling Trump in for questioning, right? The January 6th committee is not doing that right now. I feel like they put the kibosh on it. I don't know what a kibosh is. My mom always said that. But anyway, you know, the things your mom says. But no. They gave it they gave it the axe. They're not going to call Trump in for questioning. There's a reason for that. There's so much at risk if they call him in for questioning. I hate to tell you all this, but there's some international disruptions that could take place based on my psychic impression, entertainment purposes only. I have to say that a lot tonight because I'm delving into some international stuff. And I sense that they know more than we are being told in terms of that being kind of risky. So what they're doing is they're waiting for the hearings so the American people can get all this information. And we'll take a look to it at whether the people that watch Fox News will get the information. And we'll look to it with the experiment with when people that watch Fox News they were paid to watch CNN for like a month or two, and what that revealed as to whether people, when they see the January 6th committee hearings, whether the Fox News watchers are actually going to take it in. But I feel like the January 6th committee is not going to call Trump in for questioning, but that doesn't mean nothing's going to happen. It just means it looks like they'll opt for the American people to watch the hearings. Boy, they have so much evidence. If it makes you feel a little better about everything that's going on, at least we have a free press. At least we have investigative journalists. At least we have news channels that are telling us what's going on. Count your blessings, everybody, and really work hard to save our democracy. You know what I'm going to say next. You know that I'm going to say, send an email to grassrootsofdemocracy@gmail.com and type AYE in the subject line. You know I'm going to say that, right? Just sneaking it in. We are so damn fortunate. I heard Sadhguru today on his Save Soil little mission use these two words. Just about the topsoil going extinct if we don't do something. He said, we can't afford to be apathetic and ignorant about the topsoil issue, which is obviously connected to the world's food supply. And I feel that way about our democracy. We cannot afford to be apathetic and ignorant. And if people are being ignorant, we have to, something just moved back there. If people are being ignorant, we have to be patient and inform them. And I love the idea, there's a couple things I want to mention. I love the idea of, Adam Kinzinger has this movement called Unify, where you call somebody who voted for Trump and you just ask them some questions and you have a conversation. You need to have a laptop for that, a computer, and I don't, but and I really wanted to do it. I got to figure it out. But I encourage people here to join Country First and to join that movement. So it's a Unify. And also, if we can, join Grassroots of Democracy, we're working hard. If we can maybe do it, I want to contribute to that experiment where they're getting people to watch CNN that always watch Fox News to see if something can, if people's eyes can open up. Because the reason that we're in the position that we're in, where so many people, led by the Republicans, want fascism, the reason that that's happening is mainly 99.9% ignorance. People just not being curious enough to look further, not having good thinking skills, just not being very smart. I'm not being offensive. I'm just saying some people are smarter than others, right? Obviously, there are people that are physicists, and there are people that don't do anything even remotely close to that. So, I'm not a physicist. I'm maybe a metaphysicist. Where are we at here? I'm straightening out my cards. We cannot afford to be apathetic and ignorant. We are so fortunate to live in this country. We can't take it for granted. And the reason that we are so busy with our lives, that some people think they're too busy to help save democracy. The reason we have those lives is because we're in a democracy. So let's just think it through as I straighten out the cards to go to the next question. I do appreciate that you can hang with me during all this stuff. And I feel better after talking about it, even if it's one way. Someday I'll go live again, but that tends to be really chaotic. It's okay to do that for a church of spirituality, but for these videos, it takes so much focus anyway. But I will. And Corey and I are coming on tomorrow night. I don't. He wants to go live. I don't. So we'll see. We'll see what. Stay tuned. We'll see what transpires there. But we will be on tomorrow night. Next. Oh, I do want to look at the CNN paid watchers. I want to see if, you maybe all have heard of, that they did this study. They took a whole bunch of Fox News watchers, and I love that movement to let's get these people exposed to real news information. Let's not be Russia, where they're hiding all the real news from the Russian people. Let's get on top of this. So did that CNN... I might ask about Adam Kinzinger's movement too, called Unify, where they call people and just talk about, our politics and what's going on, and why they voted for Trump and why they watch Fox News. So this is about the Fox News experiment, where the Fox News watchers watched CNN for 1 or 2 months. Did it work? At first they felt confined because they definitely were into their own way of thinking. And there's some hypnosis that happens. Like I heard somebody on a YouTube channel, I think it was the Damage Report, one of the commentators there saying, people that watch Fox News, they have it on in the background all the time. So, when you have something on in the background all the time, it sinks in. That's like a hypnosis. So they did feel kind of like, oh, we don't know what to believe. It was a little bit of a feeling of being trapped. But this is really positive because the Four of Pentacles is it's kind of like a negotiation that actually got somewhere. It got them to think. So, and I feel like there's going to be more money going into experiments like that, just because it's just like research. It's not like anybody's attacking their way of thinking. They just want to see what they think about watching the CNN, the real news, even though Trump always called it fake news, just like Putin does. Trump and Putin are 2 peas in a pod. They're like identical human beings. Just so you know. I dropped a card. All right, but this feels really productive. It'll be fun when we're all on board together to save democracy. I just want to say that. It will be fun. It doesn't have to be awful. I mean, it's a very serious situation that we're in. But, at our meetings, at our Zoom meetings on Thursdays, it's not, we're not all sitting there somber. We're chatting. We get a ton of stuff done in 1 hour. And then on Saturdays, we have our 90-minute email-a-thon. It's just like the library. We sit there and we write emails. Pretty good. Can you tell I'm trying to talk you into it? And thank you for those who have joined. It's not for me, it's for our democracy. Next! Okay, I do want to look at Adam Kinzinger's initiative of Unify, calling people who voted for Trump and just talking to them about it. I'm telling you, I walk by this house very frequently that now has a Trump 2024 sign on the house and flag. They've been flying their flag for 6-7 years now. How long? 50, yeah, long time. And I have this, desire to just have a conversation. What is it? Why do you want him? Not attacking the person. So Adam Kinzinger's organization, he's Adam's, going through not an easy time with standing up for democracy, as we know. And they're encountering, this is the Seven of Cups, this is like the delusional, they're encountering the delusion. So I'm asking about Adam Kinzinger's Unify initiative, which is calling people who voted for Trump, who voted Republican, and just talking to them. But it looks like there's some harmonious things happening. It doesn't look like there's fights happening on that. And it is very fair. And I heard from a couple of people in the Grassroots of Democracy group that they did do it, and it was actually very very productive and positive. So yeah, I'm feeling like the guides are handing it to me. If we can just cross the aisle and talk to the other humans, let me mention another thing too, is like in these red states right now, it's very sad, very, very sad, but I really do think it's going to make people consider who's going to be the party that's more likely to help them. And the southern states, like I said, they're being pummeled by bad weather. I was a little horrified about a month ago when somebody asked about weather. The people always ask about weather. I think it might have been on Corey's show and with me and our show. And I saw this spring being exceedingly unstable. It doesn't really take a psychic, but I just did see it. My point is, in the red states, a lot of people are getting pummeled by tornadoes, by floods, and the spring has just begun, and April is a very unstable month. So my point is that I think that what I see is, as a result of that devastation and terribleness of this, remember the tornado that pummeled through Kentucky that was like football fields wide? And these are red states, these are Republican states, and we live in a country where the Republicans don't want to help the people at all. So in addition to being spoken to kindly, to open their minds a little bit, to encourage people to open their minds a little bit that voted for Trump, a lot of people in the red states are going to be suffering. Not that the blue states aren't going to get it too, but it just so happens that the red states are getting hit really badly. I think that's going to open up people's minds a little bit to a different way of looking, because it is the Democrats that voted for the infrastructure bill and that voted for, the child credit, and I don't know what kind of human beings want children to go hungry, but that's what the Republicans, that's what they want. Including Joe Manchin, who's not a Republican, but he's a Democrat in name only. As is Sinema, who I haven't really heard any news about her lately. Let's see, what else? States taking away women's rights, like I mentioned earlier. It is, and here's what I want to say about that. How about we have a law? How about that we have laws that say this? I mean, I'm just saying this because it's like comparable. All men who aren't married need to have vasectomies. That's a Christian idea, isn't it? Can we just imagine that? Women, girls, men too? How about they start making laws that all men who aren't married have to have vasectomies? I just made that up. But what they're doing to women is kind of the equivalent of that. Plus, I don't see them, I don't see them taking care of the children, like the child care credit, tax credit. I don't see the Republicans, supporting that. I don't see that they're putting money into education in schools. I don't see that they're putting money into communities, minority communities that are struggling. I don't see any of that, but they want to send women to prison, or what was it in Texas? Abbot wants somebody was on their soapbox talking about that women should get the death penalty if they have an abortion. And then there's this case in Texas now where a woman in a desperate state, obviously, had to go to the hospital because she tried to do it herself and ended up being arrested. This is America. What they're doing is fascism. So we're going to see what about women's rights. And I'm curious to know what you think of my little thing that I just made up. If all men that weren't married had to have vasectomies, because it's really like kind of similar. Just I was just trying to think of something that was like, equal in, punishment. Because that's what it is, it's punishment. And somebody on the news on Joy Reid's show a woman, I don't know what her name was, but anyway, she mentioned that this is a violation of HIPAA laws, which is your right to privacy when it comes to medical records. So there's a whole lot of laws that these Republicans are going to have to get around. Like, for example, speaking of that kind of thing, Ron DeSantis, his Don't Say Gay bill, telling people what they can talk about. Once again, let's look at Putin. If you say the word war, you can go to jail for 15 years. And you can bet your little behind that that is happening. So, freedom of speech. How's Ron DeSantis going to get around that? We need to strengthen our Constitution. We need to strengthen our rights as citizens. Seriously. And we all know we have to fight for voting rights. We'll get to that. Texas. And I did say this the other day too. We were going to see women's rights being taken away. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be horrible. And then, yeah, this is really similar to what I saw. I'm trying to remember the cards that I saw. I'll have to go look again. Because I saw it being the law for a short time that women don't have rights anymore to decide what happens to their bodies. And so this is the Five of Cups, the distress that's a result from that. And then the Temperance, the women are going to rise up. I just see it, it's like, oof, once it sinks in, and it's sunk in, like today it kind of sunk in with this case with this Texas woman who got arrested for a self-induced, obviously not successful in terms of, she got herself in physical, trouble, a threat to her own health, and got arrested. Anyway, the Chariot means that there's going to be fast-moving action to stop this, and I feel like it's going to come from the High Court. How tumultuous is that going to be? Because the Chariot means there's going to be a lot happening really fast with this taking away women's rights. And the fundamental question in America right now is, do we have a legal system that works? Seriously. The Devil card. Oh, it's nefarious. It is dark money all the way. This taking away women's rights, dark money all the way. These heinous humans want to imprison women. But the one thing about the Devil card, the artist that did these cards really just incredible. And all the tarot decks, I guess almost all of them, there's a male and a female that are being held by chains to the devil, but they can take the chains off. They're not really bound, even though they look bound. So there's that. We have the power to turn this around. And I just lost the other two cards that I have had, but maybe there's a reason for that, because I see the Tower. This is going to cause a lot of upheaval in this country. And the Nine of Cups means men and women are going to come together and get women's rights back. Thank you. I like that. There's that. Now let's take a look at Ron to Satan, because he is Satan. See, we just saw Satan. We just saw the Devil card. As I'm looking at Sadhguru behind me, I feel like he's looking at me going, don't forget to tell people to join the Save Soil movement. So please join the Save Soil movement. Go to savesoil.org. I've been listening to Sadhguru is touring Europe on a motorcycle. He's the coolest guru ever. And he's stopping and speaking like everywhere and giving some really excellent talks. So go to YouTube and look at what, he's just, yesterday he was in France, and at one point when he was giving a talk, he was like, give me one of those hats. So then he threw on like a red beret. It was so funny. He's a funny guru. Anyway, save soil. We have to save our topsoil. If we don't, we don't have any food on this planet. And I really do feel like it's essentially even more important, because we're losing I don't know, the stats aren't out yet, but in Ukraine, main industry, big, it's the breadbasket of the world, and Putin has devastated that entire country. So we got to get on this. Anyway, like there's not enough to do, right? McConnell, I want to look at, well, DeSantis first, and then we're going to look at McConnell, because McConnell gave this really revealing, disturbing interview to Jonathan Swan that I mentioned the other day, and I kind of screwed up my political, facts, because I mentioned that he said if the Republicans take over the House, but he's the head of the Senate. Anyway, the point that I was making was McConnell is hell-bent on not allowing Joe Biden to ever seat another Supreme Court justice, which means that that we would be a fascist country, because McConnell doesn't care. And you know what? Remember when we were calling him Moscow Mitch? That's all I'm going to say about that at the moment. We're looking at DeSatan right now. I want to look at what's happening with Disney versus DeSatan. By the way, while I'm thinking of it, please subscribe to my channel. I know everybody else says it, but then I don't say it, and the thumbs up and all that while I'm thinking of it. DeSatan. What DeSatan is doing is a stab to the heart. A stab to the heart. It's going to be tough. The gay people will win. That's what I just got. That's what the guides just said. Gay rights will win. Okay, good. Because why go backwards when you can go forwards? That's what I say. Mitch McConnell. Let's see what's going to happen to Mitch McConnell. Telling you folks, I'm trying to cover the entire list. Let's see if we can do it. It's like a contest. How much news can you cover in 45 minutes? Mitch McConnell. What's going to happen to Mitch McConnell in the next 3 months? We'll take a look at that. For some reason, the guides are showing me McConnell versus Liz Cheney. That's interesting. McConnell's going to continue to try to pull the wool over the American people's eyes. Now, let me just say something about this card. This card keeps coming up, and I'm shuffling. You've heard the shuffling going on. I'm shuffling. This card keeps coming up. This card is about being deluded, not seeing things clearly. This is like, I'm in a fog. I don't know what's going on. Don't we all feel like that? Nobody knows what's really going on. But this is about McConnell, and this is McConnell trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. That's what that's about. This is Liz Cheney. I feel like there's a connection between McConnell and Russia that's going to come out in the January 6th investigations, and I feel like Mitch McConnell is not very comfortable right now. I'm not saying he was in on the January 6th situation. I'm not saying Mitch McConnell was in on the insurrection. But remember how he flipped? How he said Trump was fully responsible on, the whole January 6th and the impeachment hearings and all that, but he wouldn't vote to impeach, to unseat him, to take him out of office? That was the Moscow connection. These two cards come up a lot around the January 6th committee, Liz Cheney, and all the information. Mitch McConnell is trying to pull the wool over everyone's eyes, people. Let's see what's going to happen to him. Not really using my pendulum tonight, but I will in a minute. But I did post on my community page today, I'm going to teach a pendulum class. It won't be the only one, but I'll do it for the first time on April 30th. This is very simple. You just have to send me an email and I will send you details. That's how I'm doing it. Okay, so April 30th, it's a Saturday, from 1 to 3, 2 hours. Eastern time, in a Zoom room. Probably going to take the 10 people this time around. So send an email. I hate to confuse you with all these email addresses. To AnnetteDion7@gmail.com, and that's on my community page if you want to be in on that class on April 30th. It won't be the only class that I offer, but it'll be the first one. All right, and thank you for your interest. And we are going to look at Let's look at McConnell. With the pendulum, since I mentioned the pendulum. Was Mitch McConnell, did Mitch McConnell have connections to what happened on January 6th? Yes, he had connections. I don't think he was like the Cruzes and the Hollies and the Gosar and the Gomer and the, you know, and the Brooks. And I don't think he was, and the Cawthorns and the Taylor Greens and the Boberts. The list is so freaking long. Anyway, McConnell was in on something to do with Russia, which is why he backed off when it came to unseating Trump after he got impeached twice. Let me just say that anybody that's still for Trump, you have to consider that they're under hypnosis, period. Because he's as bad as Putin. And Putin is murderous. Remember when Trump said he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it? He meant it, and he meant that he would. He meant that he would. How long will Mitch McConnell stay in office? To the end of 2022? Let me ask in a different way. Will Mitch McConnell stay in office for 2022, the entirety of 2022? Yeah. Will he be in office? Will Mitch McConnell stay in office for the entirety of 2023? No, going to spinning. Let's do, my pendulum is really giving me crazy answers lately. Okay, is Mitch McConnell going to stay in office in 2023? I'm getting a no on that. But I think it was doing that spin around thing because I was probably going, what? I know. Think the best. We don't have to think the worst. Let's think the best because the best can happen. And on that note, the guides told me today that we need to, you know, this Trump not getting in trouble, we have to all start thinking he's getting in trouble and stop like affirming that he's going to get away with everything because that doesn't really help. That actually feeds into him getting away with more. So let's all start visualizing Trump going to prison. Okay? Okay? Let's do that. Oh my goodness, look at the time. So let's do one more thing. I'm just going to ask something really like kind of general about Putin's war, and it's too hard to look at that situation. I just want to know if NATO has had enough. If we're actually going to go in and do more. Because Putin is just, it's getting, like, it's really out of control. It's been out of control since it started, obviously, but it's getting really, really, really bad. So, is NATO going to do more? Including America. It looks like yes. Yes, yes, and yes. NATO is going to do more. And let's see, I'm just going to take a look at how long this is going to last. How much longer is Putin going to go at it? 1 week? 2 weeks? 3 weeks? 4 weeks? About 5 weeks. I did ask before. I think that was 5 weeks. I'm going to look at that again. How much longer is this going to go? How much longer is Putin going to just keep on going with all this heinous killing? 1 week? 2, 3, 4. It's the same thing that I got before. It's like 4 to 5 weeks, and then we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see him pulling out. Okay, that's all I have time for tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to book a reading, please send an email. Write all this down, okay? Send an email to AnnetteDionPsychic@gmail.com and I'll get Matthew to put you on my schedule. Pretty sure I have room right now. AnnetteDionPsychic@gmail.com. And pendulum class, send an email to AnnetteDion7@gmail.com. Just let me know you want to take the class. April 30th, 1 to 3 Eastern Time on Zoom. And once you send me that email, I'll just send you the details because they're just coming together. I think that's it. Oh, and please watch Church of Spirituality because I've got a really good, there's a good sermon in there. And if you want to fast forward, if you don't want to do the peace meditation at the start, which is 30 minutes, just fast forward to the 30-minute mark and the church is there. It's all labor of love, and I love you guys, and please spread the love and spread the peace. Keep peace in your heart, because even though you think it doesn't really make a difference, naturally you might think it doesn't make that much difference, it actually does. So, namaste, be well, and I'll see you soon.